Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Spearhead magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, obviously give the video a thumbs up. If you're new here or you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button? And last but by no means least, why not drop a comment as well? One, goes a massive way to helping out the channel, and two, I really do love hearing back from you guys, whether you're just commenting to say hello, whether you're just stopping by to say what colour scheme you're going for, or if there's minis in the future that you're looking forward to, all that good stuff. It's super interesting, super fun, and obviously makes the channel a bit more of a community, which is pretty much what I want, exactly, to be honest. So, it is what it is. Now, obviously this week's video is slightly later than usual, and that is entirely because of the heat wave we have had in the UK. I'm not going to lie, through my recording on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday this week, it reached a whopping 35 degrees in that room, which is far too hot to record in. Very, very, very hot, and completely impossible to actually edit the videos in as well, because the PC I use for it chucks out an absolute massive amount of heat. And my laptop did not want to transfer files, so I couldn't edit on my laptop, which was really, really annoying. But it is what it is. Anyway, it's Saturday morning. We're a few days late for this week's issue, but we are on issue number 16 of good old Spearhead magazine. It is the second part of our first lot of good old seraphon units. So we have our sprue and we have the 10 bases for our Saurus warriors, which are super cool. I do really, really love the Saurus warriors. I think they are one of the most fun units. Seraphon are one of these factions within Warhammer Age of Sigmar and the fantasy battles that I've always really, really loved. And these Saurus warriors are super cool and super interesting and super fun, and yeah, right up my alley. But super cool stuff. So obviously now we have our heads, we have all the club hands as well, because the idea with the magazine, it wants you to have the clubs instead of the spears. But if you've bought multiple of these, and I can't say I'll blame you if you have, why not build both? Be good fun. But yeah, super cool stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to building these guys, which I might be able to do it today, I might not, I don't know yet. I haven't fully decided what I'm doing with the rest of my day in 29 degree heat. So, it is what it is. Anyway, obviously, going into this week's issue, we're actually greeted by some lore. So, we have information about the realm of Shyish, the realm of death. Shyish is a grim realm of endings. It is here that most of the souls of immortal realms are destined to go when they die. In Shyish, the afterlives are no mere abstractions, but instead exist alongside mortal settlements of dour, hardy individuals. Death is no rest in Shyish. The living and the dead alike experience constant turmoil. A chill wind howls through dry branches. Skeletal feet trample the earth in an endless march towards nothing. The great desert sands hiss over endless expanses. This is Shyish, the realm of death. Shyish is a bleak, hostile place to the living and the dead alike, claimed as dominion by the great necromancer Nagash. The realm's afterlives, once tranquil places of final reward and reflection, have transformed into battlegrounds. Here, Nagash's undead legions transform the souls of the fallen into shrieking geists that serve the great necromancer. And Shyish is a harsh place for the living too, scraping out a meagre living in the thin soil, and amid the arcane dangers of the realm, which takes grim determination. For many mortals, the only life they can hope for is the indenture under the dubious protection of the soul-blight vampires, who care for their mortal subjects no more than a farmer cares for cattle. So you get a little bit more information about good old Shyish here. So obviously Shyish, the realm of death, the home of Nagash, the great necromancer, There are many factions that kind of reside around here in this realm. So you do have, but it's a Sigmar, you do have a couple of contingencies of Stormcast Eternals there. The Lumineth have started settling in Shaiish as well to gain a foothold there. We have Ideneth Deepkin hanging around there as well. Then we have obviously the Forces of Death in the shape of the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. We have the Soulblight Grave Lords. We have the Night Haunt, and pretty much any other faction of death that you can think of. I forgotten a faction of death here, but yeah. So the land is very ravaged. It's littered with, wandering geists, souls, and everything like that, and mausoleums here, there, and everywhere, and super cool. And even the Skaven are taking an interest in this realm, but even Nurgle takes an interest in this realm. So it's quite an interesting and unique realm. You get a nice map of Shaiish as well, which I must admit, Shaiish is one of my favourite realms. I always find it really, really cool and super interesting. And if you want to do like Shaiishan style bases, there are little ways and tricks that I personally like to try and do with it. So I like having that sandy colour, and I like mixing in a little tiny bit of purple in there to kind of give it that Shaiishan kind of purple kind of colouring. And obviously your dry dead grass gives it a nice look as well, so it's really cool and makes it pretty cool. Anyway, your map gives you some nice locations that you can choose from, whether you're looking at places like Lyria or Halhost or anything like that, or Halost should I say. You've got places like Glimsforge mentioned here. We have the Nyazar. We have good other places such as Nulamia. Well, I've probably said that very wrong then, because I always do, and other places like that, and a couple of very interesting places where we get to learn about on the page after. So we have the Shaiishan Deer. Now, with all the other mortal realms, the essence of magic is its most chaotic and unstable at the edges of the realm. Shaiish is a little bit interesting. Shaiish has a Shaiishan Deer, which is the epicenter of Shaiish. It's a vast sucking void of raw amethyst energy, which was created when Nagash's great ritual to control the realms with his black pyramid of vitrified grave sand went a little bit wrong. And that is the basis for the beginning of the Soul Wars novel, and the beginning of the Soul Wars, which was the second edition of good old Age of Sigmar. You also have Lethis mentioned here as well. Lethis is one of the Sigmar's key footholds within the Realm of Death, built on the shores of Lake Lethis, and it stands as a strategic strong point, and it's a bit of a grim place because obviously it's in Shaiish. And then we have Shadespire. Now Shadespire is a very unique place. It did kind of serve Nagash, but as a they started to defy Nagash, trapping the souls within shade glass, so Nagash wasn't able to read them souls and to utilise them souls to his own will. So as a punishment, Nagash decided to cast the entire city into the void that is between realms. So all its inhabitants are trapped there. Those who seek to plunder the riches of good old Shadespire do actually risk kind of transforming and kind of being teleported into Shadespire itself and being trapped there for all of eternity. And that is where the Shadespire book comes from, which is definitely worth a read. It is the first of the Underworld novels, and it was super cool. It's super interesting. It's really, really good fun. And it involves basically what dies there doesn't technically always stay dead. Sometimes it comes back and can be it could be literally, a person dies or something like that, and then their friends walk around the corner and they're there again, coming the other way, just going, what the hell's happened? Or it could be 6 months later and the person just suddenly walks out of a room and stuff like that. So that type of thing can happen as well within Shadespire, which is very, very interesting, very unique, and makes it a very cool place and a bit of a crazy place at exactly the same time. Moving on from there, we actually get our paint guide for the Saurus Warriors. I agree and disagree with the paint guide for these guys already. A bad and black as a base coat, absolutely bob on, you can't knock it. Cantor blue over the main skin areas, yes and no, and I'll explain my reason. I like it, it does work, it does have a job, but if you want to get more of the kind of that shade, then you're not going to be using Cantor blue, you're going to be using things like Thousand Suns blue and stuff like that, so it gives you a nice lighter colour to work off of. This does work in a sense, but it can be a little bit darker than you may want it. And it's definitely, in my opinion, it's definitely darker than I would want it. Personally, I'd go Thousand Suns blue, Draconoff Nightshade over the top of it, then bring it back up with I'm probably forgetting the colours of the different blues now, but you can kind of bring it back up with your kind of Fenrisian grey if you wanted to, or Lothar blue and things like that to kind of just pop it back. I mean, if you really want to go for it, then obviously you use Temple Guard blue as your kind of main colour and then go from there. Or you can go with Temple Guard blue over your Thousand Suns blue and all that type of stuff. But loads of different ways of doing it. Personally, I'm not 100% sure if I agree with this colour scheme. I think it's a little bit too dark, in my opinion. But if you're new to the hobby and you don't want to be spending hundreds of pounds on paint, this does work very well. Alternatively, I've seen people do green, good old Saurus Warriors, which works very well. I've even seen people do some red ones, which can also work fairly well. I find that one's a little bit more jarring, but the green or blue works absolutely brilliantly. Personally, a bit more turquoisey, absolutely bob on, and gives you a bit more of that kind of look to it. Anywho, moving on from there, we actually have our collect page for the Saurus Warriors. So as per usual, you can give them their battle records and unit name. They have their moment of glory, which you can tick off whenever you get to utilize that. Obviously tick off whether you built it, painted it, played with it and all that good stuff, to kind of keep track of where you are in the collection. On the other side, obviously we get our war scrolls, so you'll see that they have the Celestial Club is mentioned there but not the spear, which is why they want you to build it with the club and not the spear, stuff like that, which is pretty much bob on to the main guide for good old spearheads as well. They want you to have the clubs and not the spears. Moving on from there, we have more of our basic rules, so we go and have a little bit of a recap first over things like mortal damage and ward saves, for instance, and how to utilise those within battles, and how to utilise things like strike first and strike last, which is things that we've learned in previous issues. Going on from there though, we have actual weapon talents, or weapon abilities should I say, a breakdown of how weapon guides work as well, so you'll need to kind of keep an eye on all this type of stuff, and then that'll give you a really good look of how it's going to work for certain things. And then obviously keeping an eye on your war scrolls, keeping an eye on your opponent's war scrolls to look out for everything, and you can balance it up and however you want to go about doing that. So obviously if you're going to be playing the game, this is a very good way to make sure that you are keeping up to it and following the rules as best as you can, and obviously it's a slower way of learning the rules, but it works very well. Alternatively, obviously there are play guides online, you can find them all over YouTube, Warhammer TV if you want to. Obviously Warhammer did a bunch of announcements last night, so there is going to be their new kind of academy, so it'll teach you how to play and all that type of stuff, and teach you all the basics that this magazine's kind of going through, but only in, I'm guessing, more video format when they launch it, which will be in the coming weeks, maybe months, and all that type of stuff. Anyway, carrying on, obviously you're going to be using Skaven versus Seraphon in our little battle. So you're going to have your 10 Saurus Warriors split into 2 groups of 5, going up against 2 groups of 10 Clan Rats. Saurus Warriors are a bit tougher than Clan Rats, so which is why they're a bit more outnumbered, but you get to have a bit of fun with it, enjoy yourself, and yeah, should be good fun. Moving on from there, next week is issue number 17. It is going to be our first bit of terrain. Now, you'll recognise this bit of terrain if you bought the Skaven Tide box set, like I did, and you get all of this in there, which is obviously very similar to the Sigmarite buildings that we got with the last magazine, good old Stormbringer, because it's the idea is that it's basically utilising that, and it's been corrupted and ransacked and destroyed by the Skaven and stuff like that, which I think works a wonderful treat. I think that is the best way to do these type of kits. If you're going to try and have a kind of a theme for how your buildings look, but you want to change it over time and make it look ever so slightly different, then doing things like that works an absolute treat. Obviously you've got things like the mausoleums and stuff like that look all very similar. If you go back to the old world and fantasy battles, a lot of the terrain looks very, very similar to the other terrain and stuff like that, so it all fits in, so it's pretty cool. Now, that is pretty much it from me for today. As soon as we kind of know what's coming with the magazine, so I'll have a video up for you hopefully within the next couple of days, where we'll break down what's coming over for how the next two Spearheads break down. It's not 100% accurate from what I can tell, but it's yeah, around about 65% of the way there, at least anyway, at most. Or yeah, it could be actually spot on from what's being reported. I don't 100% know, but we're going to go through it all, and yeah, we'll have a bit of a discussion about it anyway. I've rambled on more than enough. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the sunshine, and obviously don't, get a heat stroke or anything like that, because I don't recommend it. And obviously, if you're going to be spray painting, make sure you're doing it in the right temperature and right weather conditions. You don't want it too windy, because your spray paint will blow everywhere, and you don't want it too hot or too cold. So up to 25 degrees is roughly about the maximum for most spray paints. I ideally go for around about the 22 to 23 degrees, and then that's normally the best way to do it. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye now.